Hello, my name is Dr. Taraskavich. I'm a clinical psychologist and president of Cleveland Psychological Testing. And in this short video, I'm going to give you an overview of how I conduct adoption assessments, parental fitness assessments for adoption. So, as you probably know, the adoption process itself is very involved, has a lot of steps, a lot of paperwork, and typically one part of that process is the psychological assessment. So normally what ends up happening is the adoption agency tells the prospective parents that they need to get a psychological evaluation from a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, such as me. I'm a licensed psychologist. And they normally have very specific questions or areas that should be covered in the assessment, and also sometimes specific assessments or psychological tests that they want administered. And every adoption agency is different. Every country that people adopt from is different. And so what is entailed in the assessment is going to differ simply based upon what the adoption agency wants. And my approach in doing these assessments is to be very flexible in how I conduct them and to do whatever I can, within reason, to meet the needs of the adoption agency and the country requesting the evaluation. In some cases, that has meant that I've had to give measures, testing that, psychologists in the United States stopped giving 30 years ago, right? And I normally wouldn't give it, but this is what the country wants in order to get this evaluation completed. I'm happy to do that sort of thing and to be flexible. So just know that when you get the assessment, how it goes is going to depend a lot upon the requirements for that evaluation. And my own personal approach to doing these evaluations to be very flexible and to very closely follow those requirements. But in general, the way it tends to work is you and your significant other, if you have two people adopting together, will come in for a appointment. The whole appointment will be about 3 hours long. And the way it'll work is you two are going to switch off. So first, I'm going to administer the psychological testing, which is on a computer, to one of you. And then while that person is taking the psychological testing, I'll be interviewing the other person. In that interview, I am gathering information on all the areas required for the evaluation. Once we're finished, then you switch with your partner. You do the psychological assessment on the computer. I do the interview with your partner. And then based on all that information, I write up my reports. And I'll write up typically 2 reports unless the adoption agency requests otherwise. But typically, I'll write up 2 reports, one for each of the prospective parents. And again, those reports are going to very closely follow the guidelines because, I don't, as an evaluator, I don't want a technicality or a formatting error to hold you up in the adoption, because I know that is stressful enough and there's enough moving parts already to where I really don't want you to have to worry about the psychological assessment and the formatting of it. So I'll write up those reports within 3 business days. Typically what will happen next is I'll send drafts of the report to the adoption agency. We'll have a little bit of back and forth. They might have suggestions for things to be changed. And again, I'm pretty flexible with that. And then once that process is finished, I will send you the reports. Normally those reports have to be notarized. So I will mail you notarized versions of the reports that you can get apostilled, I think is the term later, if that's something that's required. And yeah, that's the entire process. In the vast majority of the cases, people are perfectly fine, perfectly fit to adopt a child. Normally, if somebody goes through the adoption process and is willing to go through that process, they tend to be I'm pretty fit to be a parent. Of course, I have to be honest and call it like I see it in terms of parental fitness, but the vast majority of the time, people are just fine to adopt. And again, my approach is to do everything I can in my power to make sure that there's no formatting errors or technicalities that can be used to slow down or trip up the adoption process. So that's my approach to adoption evaluations. The cost for that evaluation is $1,500 with an additional $100 fee if the report needs to be notarized, which normally it does. These evaluations are not covered by insurance. Insurance will only cover evaluations that are for treatment purposes. And because this evaluation is for the purposes of determining your fitness to adopt, insurance won't cover it. And payment is required at the beginning of the appointment. I take credit card as well as cash. And then I also have a 6 months no interest if paid in full financing program through a company called Care Credit that you can apply for prior to the appointment and use that for payment at the beginning of the appointment. So that's the basic process. I don't have much of a wait list. Typically, I'm booking about a week out, so we can get this all done very quickly and efficiently and comprehensively. If you'd like to book an appointment, please do feel free to reach out to us. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me directly at anthony@clevelandtesting.com. Even if you don't book an appointment, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And have an excellent day, and looking forward to potentially working with you. Thank you, and have a good one.